Nick Moon here at Tone Proper AV, deep in the bunker. We're here to talk today about Bose Professional and the ControlSpace ecosystem. The whole ControlSpace ecosystem is based around the ControlSpace software, and everything from the amplifiers, processors, and Remote Builder, which we really love. We'll talk about those and how those all work. And we're going to work on building a custom remote app. And we're going to start from start to finish on how to build that. So ControlSpace is the network-based interface for all of your ControlSpace products, like the processors and the amplifiers. Inside of ControlSpace, that's where you do all your audio routing. You've got matrices, mixers, EQs, speaker processors, dynamics, switches, everything. And what's so great about it is that you get to build however you see fit, whatever your needs are for audio. Other things that we really love about it, a lot of the processors now have Dante just built in. That's awesome. If you don't know Dante, get to know him. AmpLink, which is Bose's proprietary audio over CAT system. That's all in there too, so you can route via analog, via Dante, or via AmpLink. The big thing here is that ControlSpace is how you access all of that information. And of course, because it's all just open, it's scalable. So you can have one processor and one amplifier, or just one processor and a volume knob, or you can be doing, Disney World and have dozens of processors over, thousands and thousands of square feet of space. So it's really scalable, and it's a great solution that we really like. So we're gonna take a quick look into ControlSpace and how to build a custom remote using Remote Builder. So a great way to get started in a blank screen here is hit the binoculars, which is a scan function. You see, and bang, there it is right there. My EX1280 was auto-populated, and it's going to tell me that it found a device. Obviously, if I had a whole bunch of devices here, it would automatically populate those. Once I get in here, this is where I can start building. It basically, every product's going to start with especially on the processors, inputs and outputs. From those inputs and outputs, you can add your routing, right? You can add meters and mixers and selectors and all that stuff. And that's where you're going to start getting into some of the logic and some of the remote building, which we really love here shortly. So on this processor, in order to make this live, which is the next to the binoculars, you're going to see this Go Online tool. That's where these settings actually get sent to the processor via the network. So we haven't done anything, so nothing's really gonna matter there. But let's say I knew that on here I was gonna have a couple of microphones. So we'd put some gain up on a couple of these microphones, and we are gonna put an EQ in. And by the way, this feedback suppression is very awesome. You're gonna want that. So I'm gonna put an EQ here and a little bit of the feedback suppression, and then I'm gonna put a little compressor on there. Let's open that up. And of course that's mono, so we're in mono here, and that's gonna go out to an output, which could then go to whatever amplifier, or if you were going at AmpLink, if you were using a Bose amplifier, which would be a good idea, you could simply route that to AmpLink, and you can route them, as you can see, both places. So now that I've got my quote-unquote setup built, I'm going to hit the Go Online tool. Now this is where, again, if you wanted to start over, because this is a blank processor, and I hit Download Design, it's going to take that design and replace what I have on my screen. I don't want to do that. I want to actually send it. So I'm going to hit Upload Design, and now, as you can see, it's sending that over. Now my screen's a different color, telling me that I am online. This connection tool is now green and tells me that I'm online. So anything I do here is real, is live. So if I make any changes here, change some attack and release times on my compressor, for example, and then I want to go offline, it's going to ask me a very important question. A lot of this, a lot of guys get in trouble with this step right here. So this step is telling me, do I want the DSP to return to these new settings when powered on? I need to flash the unit, is what it's basically telling me. Flashing it means I want it to save that data in the machine so that next time it power cycles, it goes to the settings that I sent it. If you hit no, what it's going to do is it'll have those settings on there, but when it power cycles, it'll go back to its default. So I want to say yes, and those settings are now in the machine. Now that we've talked a little bit about the basics of ControlSpace, the most useful feature is the Remote Builder app. And Remote Builder we use with the MIMO set of Android touchscreens or iPads. This is where the functionality and control of ControlSpace really shines. So let's take a quick look at how we do that, and I'm going to send that over to my friend Aaron.
Hello, my name's Aaron, and I'm excited to show you today how to kind of get started building an application inside of ControlSpace. So let's switch over to the screen here and let's take a look. Okay, well, one of the first things that I like to do when I'm getting started is to right-click on the actual device and give it a proper name. That just kind of helps me as if I got multiple devices in here, knowing what to do. So I'm just going to call this tone proper AV test, and that just gives me kind of a reference of what I'm working on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and double click to open this up, and just before I do that, to kind of give you just kind of some helpful information. All of this here on the left side of these triangles are inputs, your X's are outputs. So if you're wanting to do like a system overview on the left hand side of the screen here, you can kind of add some information in just to kind of help you know what is going on. So if you are going to use your first few as inputs, we would drag over, this is a microphone there, and if you had like an MP3 player coming in, you could drag that in and put that in there as well. And just kind of a system overview just so that you kind of help keep track of things. But let's go ahead and double tap on here. Okay, so now that we're inside of our ControlSpace device, we're going to start adding some utilities. So the first thing that I like to add, I'm going to add in my mixer. So we're going to open this up. Nope, that's meters. Let's go down one, mixer. And we're just going to do a standard mixer. So I'm going to click and drag that in. And you notice first thing that's going to ask for is your input and your output ports. So again, going through this project overview and outlining everything that you're going to be adding in and how many outputs you're going to be having is really helpful, because it just gives you some forethought so that when you're here, you have thought through everything. So I'm going to go ahead and put in just 8 inputs and 2 outputs, not 82. We're going to do 8 and 2. And then the second thing that I'm going to put in here is a noise generator. And this is helpful when you're actually deploying this, before you've got all your microphones and everything hardwired in and looking pretty. You can just send some noise through it just to make sure that the system is actually getting information from ControlSpace into the amp and into the speakers. So what we're going to do is start connecting our devices. And the way that we do that is we come over here to our input, our little triangle, and wait till you get the hand, and then just click and drag to the proper channel. So if you accidentally snap that to the wrong channel, what you'll do is you'll tap on it, wait till you see the little dots here, and then just hit the delete, and that'll go away. Or if you want to just move it, same thing, click on the dot and drag it down, and you can select what device. The other thing that will really help you, again, just having a good, clean signal flow and a good, clean layout on screen is super helpful to not get confused. I've seen some of these where it literally looks like spaghetti, and you just have no idea what's going on. So as soon as you start getting into like your 5th channel and below, you'll start noticing that your lines are going at a diagonal. What you can do is click, and you'll see the triangle turn orange. Just arrow down until your lines are straight. And that might be a little OCD for you, but as soon as you start working on bigger models, you will love yourself. Okay, so number 2 is going to go into 2, 3 into 3, and 4 into 4. And again, keeping it straight can happen on the input side as well. All right, so we're going to add in channels 5 and 6. And then we'll go ahead and do channel 8 as our test signal. Okay, and then we're going to add our outputs 1 and 2. Oops. And you want to just decide whether you're going to do analog or whether you're going to use amp link. If you draw it to analog here and then you try to plug in a Cat6 cable, you're going to have problems. Okay. All right. So a couple things that we want to make sure that we do in order to make our application work well and be well understood by the end user is the first 4 channels that I laid out here are actually going to be microphones, but channels 5 and 6 are going to be a Bluetooth device, a stereo player. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to Windows, and we're going to click on Groups. And what this is going to allow us to do is when we actually build our app, instead of having to have a right and a left fader for that music and a right and a left mute, we can have just one because they're grouped together. Similar as if you were on an analog console and you had a stereo fader. Okay, to make this work, what we're going to do is click on Analog Into and drag that down into this yellow section here until you see the plus icon, and then just go ahead and drop it. And it's going to come up with a dialog box, and it's going to ask you what channels do you want grouped together. So we're going to take 5 and 6 because that's where our music player is going to plug into. We're going to hit Assign, and it's going to ask you what kind of a group do you want. Do you want level and mute, or you can use this drop down, just level or just mute, okay? So we're going to do level and mute because in the app, those are the functions that we want. So we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then I would suggest giving this a name, because when you bring this into your app, if you don't, it'll just say group 1, and that's what you'll be stuck with, and the end user does not know what group 1 means. So we want to go ahead and give that a name. So I'm going to call it Bluetooth player. And hopefully that makes more sense. All right, so as we're in the process of building and laying out our ControlSpace file, one of the things that you want to be really aware of is that you're building this with the intent that it is going to be used and controlled by an application on a Android or iOS device or some other sort of a tablet. So whatever you do, you want to make sure that it's going to translate over into an application smoothly. So again, just keeping everything clean and simple, your labels clean and simple, your signal path clean and simple is really, really important, so that in the end, the user experience is logical. Okay, so now what we need to do, we're actually done. We're ready to send this over into the app builder. So now though, we need to make sure that we save this. So let's go ahead and hit File, Save As, and I'm going to give this, I'm going to call it Tone Proper AV Test. We're going to save it, and I've already saved one like that, so yes, I'm going to overwrite it. And now we're ready to jump in to the remote builder and start actually building our app. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go ahead and open up ControlSpace. And as soon as it opens, this is what you're going to be looking at. And the first thing we have to do is open the ControlSpace file. And if you remember in the last video, we made our programmed our ControlSpace unit, and we saved the file. So we're going to go ahead and open that up, hit File and Open, and here's what we called it, TPAV Test. Okay, so now you'll see here in the header that we've got that opened up. And then we need to come over here to the canvas, and we're going to select what kind of a device that this application is going to be running on. Okay, so today we're going to do that on an iPad, a 12-inch iPad Pro, but there's a bunch of devices here. So obviously it can go on all the Apple devices, iPhones, etc., and it can also go on Lenovo tablets. We use the Mimo 7-inch tablet quite a bit. Those are great because they make a fantastic in-wall unit, so you can recess it, and it looks super sharp. But Amazon Fire, all kinds of stuff. We're going to set whether it's landscape or portrait. We're going to set our dimensions, inches or centimeters. And then your top and your bottom, that's this where it says site name and where it says collection. You can change how those look. And then your skin and your accents. So there's a light and a dark theme. I prefer the dark theme. I don't want this glowing at me the whole time when I'm looking at it. And then just choose your accents. And I like blue accents. I think they look sharp. So there we go. Everything is changed over. And then we're going to get started building. Now, when I'm building, I like to come into this with an idea of what this is going to look like. And I build most of mine pretty much the same. But what I do is I usually have my faders and mute buttons on the left-hand side, and then I'll have customer logo with some help text on the right-hand side. To save some time today, I've pre-populated my paste bin with some text, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do some right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up this graphics section and we're going to create a frame. So just click and drag that over, and here it is. And that's about the right size, but we need it just a tad bit bigger. Okay, we'll do something like that. The next thing we're going to do is drag in our logo, and what this is just a see, that doesn't look like a logo. Well, you actually got to tell it where the picture is. So we're going to come down here to Properties, where it says Image. We're going to browse on our computer to where our logo is, and that's it. I'm going to open that up. Now that looks good. Bring it down just a tad bit. There we go. Okay, next thing we need is some text. Now, the way the text works, it's not like a typical text box. What you got to do is drag in a new text field for each line that you're typing. So this can get a little bit cumbersome, but we're just going to say, for now, blah, blah, blah. Oops, hit Siri. There we go. Okay, now if I wanted a new line of that, so you got to kind of think about your text a little bit, I would drag in a new one and do the same thing. I double tap to get to the Properties section, and just FYI. Okay, so, and you can, when you're doing things like this, you can hit the Shift button, tap on multiple, go to Layout, and you can, your vertical distribution kind of centers multiple things, or you can also align to the left, etc. Typical design software features there. Okay, I'm going to get rid of these. Just hit the delete key. Okay, so that's kind of what that's going to look like. Now I'm going to go ahead and paste in just to save time. Okay, you see this is a little bit bigger. But this gives you an idea of what I would do. I've grabbed this from a different app that I built, so I'm going to update the email address here. I'm going to say aaron@toneproper.av.com. Hit enter to update it. Okay. All right, that's nice. Now I'm going to start bringing in faders and mute buttons. So I'm going to open up here where it says TPAV test. That's the device. If you remember from the last video, we gave our device a name. And then I'm going to select analog I/O because I'm using hardwire ins and outs and not Dante. And I'm going to drag in some faders. Now, you can do button or fader. Button is just they tap up and they tap down. I just think that that is too complicated. So I just bring in a fader and I'll bring in my mute right below it. And this is always a little bit too big, so I resize it. And I'm going to bring in 4 on this panel here. I'm just going to bring in all my faders at once, and then I'll bring in all my mutes next. And we can adjust the top align and distribution and all that when we're done. So I'm not necessarily worried about the spacing yet. Okay, now I'm going to hit Shift. I'm going to select all of these because they're not laid out evenly. So I'm going to do my horizontal distribution. Okay, you see that puts them nicely. And while they're all still selected, I'm going to move them over just a tad bit to make the spacing on the left and on the right somewhat proper. And then I'm going to start aligning these up. One thing that you want the user experience to be as good as it can be, and part of that is having a good looking device. So again, I'm going to distribute horizontally to get those that looks about right. That looks about right. Okay. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with the vertical distribution. So I'm going to go align top, and I'll do that here as well. Layout, align top. Okay. That looks pretty good right there. Now let's come over here to where it says layout. And this is going to allow you to add a second page. Okay. So this collection is a group of pages. Okay. So while we're here, we can name our site. I guess we should do that. That is right here. If you can see that just updated. And I'm hitting the orange icon for layout. And let's go ahead and also label this where it says collection 1, because nobody knows what that means. So we're just going to call this channel strips. Okay. Now that's updated. Let's hit it again. And under home, we're going to add a panel. And I'm just going to make it a blank panel. And that just allows you to hit this arrow button to go back and forth. Okay. So I'm going to grab this because I want the customers to see these, see this text no matter what page that they're on. And I'm just going to paste it. So I'm just using the Control-C and V to copy and paste, just like on any Windows machine. Now, if you remember in the last video, I said that for our music player that we made a group, okay, similar to like a stereo channel on an analog console. And that just allows the customer to not have to move up one fader and then move up the next fader. They can move both of them at the same time. And they don't even know that they're doing it, right? That's pretty natural. So you'll notice here in the software where it says groups, if we open this up, there's one that says Bluetooth player. And just like on the analog I/O, I drag over my level, make it a slider, and I drag over my mute, okay? Now, this one, I like it to look just a little bit different. So I'm going to do horizontal, so they can just kind of move it that way. And it's the only one on the page, so I make it just a little bit bigger. And same with my mute. Let's enlarge that just a tad bit. And we'll center them to each other. And I just think that it would look really great if this had a nice border around it. So let's make a frame. And this is going to come pre-populated with a dark background. And I don't want the dark background, so I'm going to come over here to Properties. I'm going to hit Field Color, and I'm going to hit Pick Screen Color. And then I'm going to come over to the screen. So it's not really transparent. It's just the same color as the screen. Now it's on top, hiding everything. So I'll come over to Layout, and I hit Send to Back. And it's got that nice little border, is the only thing that you see, which looks really nice. Okay? So now I've got 2 pages to my app, one with microphones 1 through 4 and their corresponding mute buttons and the instructions for the operator. And I come over here to page 2 with the Bluetooth slider and the on-screen instructions. Okay, let's save this. Let's give it a name, save remote file as, let's just call it, let's just write over TPAV test. We'll just write over that. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to send this application to our Apple device, okay? All right, so in order to get this onto our tablet, we need to first download the Bose ControlSpace app onto the tablet, okay? So I've already done that just to save us some time. And then make sure that your computer and the tablet are on the same either local area network or Wi-Fi channel, whichever, okay? So once we get this up, and I already have an app on here, but typically it would just come up with the pre-configured app. But we're gonna come up here, we're gonna hit the gear icon, and you're gonna have this menu here that says setup, okay? Go ahead and hit the receive button. Now you should see where it says receive control panel, and then you're gonna have your gateway and your IP address of your local device. Over here on our remote builder, we're gonna hit where you see the telephone and the blue arrow, and it says send to mobile device. Go ahead and enter in the IP address that was on your tablet in here. In my case, it was 192.168.0.105. Just type that in and hit OK. And you will see that your your iPad has now updated, and you have the proper app here with all the functions. All right, so to test this out with ControlSpace, what we need to do is first take the ControlSpace file that we built and upload it into our device. So let's go ahead and take a look at the computer and see how we do that. Here from our main screen, you will see this kind of broken plug. It says go online. Let's go ahead and click on that, and it brings up this toolbar that says get from device, which would be downloading the file from the ControlSpace unit into your computer, and that will overwrite what you have on your computer. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do is send to the device. And that will take what's on the computer and send it into the ControlSpace unit. You will notice there that our background is turned blue, letting us know that we are online and our plug is now connected, letting us know that what we see on the screen is connected to what we see in the ControlSpace unit. So just to test that our functions are actually working, let's double click on where it says mic 2. This is going to bring up our first 4 channels, and let's go ahead and tap mute on our iPad, and you will see that we are also muted in ControlSpace. Let's change the fader volume of input number 2, and we will see that it goes up and down. Okay, we could change screens and come over here. Let's close out of this and go to our Bluetooth player, which is channels 5 and 6. We mute that. We'll see that both channels mute at the same time because they're grouped together. Same with the fader volume. Those are now linked together. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful to you. Make sure to leave your comments and your questions down below in the comments section. See you next time. Well, thanks for stopping by our channel. We hope that you enjoyed this content. Make sure you hit the like button and comment below your thoughts. Also, to get more great content like this, hit subscribe and click the bell icon to get notifications when we release our next video.